Hi, everybody. I'm going to give a minute or two before I get started here so that people can come in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today, my goal is to create a Secret Santa app. But really, when I'm producing these videos, it's not just creating the app, but sharing with you what I'm thinking about as I'm going along. So as a participant on the call, as somebody who's watching, I really encourage you to ask questions so that you can really dig into what I'm thinking about. In case I'm not sharing about a certain reason why I'm doing a certain action. So a few other things that I wanted to share before we get things started is, as I'm thinking about how I'm solving this problem, I'm really exercising this thing called computational thinking. It's not just about how I solve a problem, but how I make my solution something that I can describe to somebody else, that I could describe to a machine to be automated, how I can make this solution more sustainable. So it's not just a one-off app. So those are some things to look out. In the coming week, I'm going to be joining a chat, the MSFT EDU chat, where you can chime in about ways that you've learned computer science, ways that you've created apps, whether it's PowerApps Flow, ways that you use computational thinking. So this is going to be on Twitter. Please join me on the MSFT EDU chat. So let's go ahead and get things started. Every time that I do one of these live webinars, what I'm really sharing with you is I always start with a wireframe. So I'll go ahead and share my screen at this time. I'm going to change my video to just a screen share. And I'm going to hop over to Microsoft OneNote, where I like to prepare my thoughts. So for the Secret Santa app, just to give you a little bit more background in case you're not familiar with what Secret Santa is, or in case you confused it with White Elephant, a Secret Santa is where you have many different participants. Each of these participants will share a little bit about themselves. So they might give a few details about their interests. They'll give a few details about what age they are. Okay. And for some versions of Secret Santa, you go as far as just creating a wish list. And these participants are joining a gift exchange. So whenever the gift exchange is scheduled, about a month or a few weeks prior to that, each participant will be notified on what person they have been paired up with. And the person that they pair up with, they get them a gift. Okay, so that's the context that we're working with. It's a gift exchange that allows people to be paired up with somebody else. And when I say pair up, they don't necessarily pair up with, they don't necessarily give a gift to the other person, and then the other person is the exact pair with them. Sometimes it could even go in a cycle. All right. Now, uh, how do I transform this kind of process, which in the past would probably take place with paper? Um, Sometimes people would email back and forth. So, uh, email? Um, and they would figure out uh, what each person's interest is. There are websites dedicated to this, actually. So, websites exist that actually create this for you. Now, my goal today is to figure out how I could make this inside PowerApps and how I could maybe include some parts of Flow. One word of caution is I haven't created this yet in PowerApps. This is completely done on the fly for the sake of showing you everything that I'm thinking about. If I had prepared this beforehand, I might miss out on some of the struggle. And it's through the struggle that I have when thinking about how I'm going to solve a problem that a lot of the learning is going to come out for you. Um, all right, so now I'm going to go into the wireframing. Again, I haven't even touched PowerApps yet. I'm going to think about how I'm actually going to solve this. So I've got some, first I need to figure out participants. I need to get people onboarded. How are they going to communicate to me that they want to be a part of this? How are they going to opt in? Is that going to be taking place in PowerApps? Is it going to be taking place somewhere else? The next thing I want to figure out is how do I get them to tell me about themselves? The info portion. Okay. Is that going to be in PowerApps? Another leg of this is how I'm going to perform the pairing up. And then on the day of the actual exchange, how am I going to have people go in order? We'll call this what order that they'll give their gifts in. Maybe you want to have that set out. Otherwise, you just randomly have people just give out their gifts all at once. Okay, now I'm going to figure out the opt-in. How do I get people to opt in to this? Suppose I'm running this Secret Santa across with my family. I'll probably do something like email. How do I send out these emails to people who I want to be involved? I think this is a good place to introduce a new requirement that Dave Stone had brought up to me. He has many different organizations. He has many different groups that he might want to do a Secret Santa with. The office, people in the office that he wants to do a Secret Santa with, and people in his family, maybe a group of friends that he wants to do a Secret Santa with. So of these groups, how do I send an email to them saying, do you want to join in? So I'm going to send out an email for them to opt in. And I'm probably going to include a link to the app that I want to bring them to. So now once they select the app, we're going to go into the info portion of this process. I want them to tell me about themselves. So their interests. For this particular purpose, I think the combo box that I had shown on the previous video with patterns, the type that they just type in anything and it becomes an item, I really like that pattern. I'm going to show that again this time. I also want to bring in Bing search for the wish list part. So the part where somebody tells me what they actually want, I think it'll be nice to bring in an image of what that actually is. Maybe grandparents don't know what the Xbox One is, or what the latest new Pokemon Let's Go game is. Let's give them some pictures. Okay. And once we have all the interests, we have the Bing search, we need to pair people up. And this is going to involve some formulas. I just know right off the bat, I'm definitely going to use some formulas here. So this is a really good part for you to tune into on I'm probably going to use a for all statement. Okay. I'm going to probably use the shuffle. Let's see what else I might use there. Definitely a collection. Okay. And once we get closer, I'll go into more detail there. And the final part is the actual event itself. This one, we'll keep this one optional. I'm not sure if we really need this part of the app. Else, I think something that's more interesting is instead of doing that part, if I have time, I would like to go into the white elephant, which has a really neat system. If time, I mean, this is a completely different scenario, but it's good for selecting who goes next in giving out gifts or picking up gifts. Okay, so I'll start with the opt-in screen. I go into the info screen, pairing screen. Oh, there's one more step here. Very important step. Once you pair people up, how do you communicate it? Okay, how do you communicate it? And so that they know. And then, for that matter, how do they communicate back that they're ready? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hop into PowerApps then with getting people opted in. For this portion, I am thinking, let's just try it and see where it gets us. Before I get started, though, I did want to give a shout out to April Denham, who has already built out a Secret Santa app, not in the long time frame that I'm going to be showing you today, because I'm going to be explaining things, but she's done it in 20 minutes or less with PowerApps. So you can walk through her solution. In fact, she has been kind enough to even share the solution in a zip file. I went ahead and imported the app here and just took a peek at it. The import process is going to be taking place when you go into PowerApps, go to Apps, Import Package, locate the zip file that she has included by going to Upload and walking through the steps there. Afterwards, you'll be able to open it up. And I'll go ahead and take the time to just link that inside the chat here. And it looks like April is on the line. So please chat with her if you have questions on her solution. Looks like we've also got Keith on the line. It is very late at night for him right now. Let me think. 2 + 6 is about 6 o'clock at night for you. We've got Geeta on the line as well. Who else is on the line? Let me take a moment and see our participants. All right. Let me continue with the solution. I figured for the sake of this app, I think just to make it distinct from April's, I'm going to make it a tablet form factor. There's a few things that I want a little bit more space for. And I could actually decide later, maybe I want to copy paste this over to a mobile form factor. I'm just going to make it in a tablet form factor for our purposes. Okay, I'm going to jump back and forth every now and then just to remind myself of the steps that I kind of laid out for myself. Okay, I want to figure out who is going to be involved in these different parts of the app. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm thinking I'm going to use a button that's going to create a category for me. Um, I want to create different lists of people who I want to mail out to and say, "Do you want to belong to this Secret Santa?" In fact, for that matter, instead of just starting with a button that's going to send out an email, I'm thinking, let's just use the actual screen that does this job for me. There's a screen template that lets me email others. When I click that, it creates all the controls that I'm going to need: a to field, a subject field, um, a paragraph field for the body, and a button for sending out an email. I'm probably going to change this up a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and change the theme as well. I really like the Office theme, so I'll go ahead and click that first blue one. It's a really nice look. Okay. Now from this, I'm going to move a few things down. I want to designate the people that I email this to as part of a group, just to fulfill David Stone's requirement of creating a group. Really, let's go back one step. Um, I need to figure out how to create this group. So maybe on this screen, I'm going to create a new group that I want to message to. Maybe this is going to be my message saying, create a new Secret Santa group. So that's going to be the title of this screen. And then the actual instruction that I'm going to place down here is name your group. Replace the default text here so it's blank. And I'll give some hint text. I'll say group name. Zoom out here. Button, I'm going to describe it as submit. Now, one faux pas that I'm going to do today during this live stream is, for the sake of time, I'm not going to rename the controls, but as a best practice, please do rename controls so that you don't lose your place later. Okay. Now, this onSelect property, I wanted to do a few things. I'm just going to lay out some commenting code here on what I want this button to do, and then I'm going to fill in what I'm going to actually, the actual actions it's going to do later. So I know I want it to set a variable with the group name. I'm thinking I'm probably going to start a table of the different groups I want. Okay. And then go to the next screen. Okay. Oops. So I want it to go to the next screen after that. All right. Now, let's go ahead and fill in what those actual actions are. Starting with setting a variable with the group name. Let's say set the current group to whatever's filled out in this text input field. Scrolling over, that text input box is text input box 1. It's going to be the name of this group. You drill into its text property. Next, I I'm going to start a table with the different groups I want. So this is going to be my patch statement. Write some data back to a table. And then afterwards, I'm going to navigate to screen 2, where I send out this email to have people opt in. Let's jump back here. Sometimes when I make an app, I start from data. Sometimes when I make an app, I start from the functionality. For this case, for this particular live stream, I decided it's faster for me if I start with how I want things to look and then go back and create the tables. Let's go ahead and hop over to Microsoft Excel. I'm using Excel today because it's going to be quick and easy for us to build some tables without needing to go into too much depth. When I'm creating a table, I like to have an ID column. I like to have a timestamp of when I created this. I want to know who made this record. We'll call it created by. The actual data that I want as part of each group. Okay, let's figure some things out here. I want the name of the group. We'll call this title of a group. The title of the particular group that I'm starting a Secret Santa with. And I could have some membership here. Just a comma delimited list of people who belong to this group. I could go further and have those names as a separate table if I really wanted to, but I'm just going to keep it simple today. Once I have the columns that I want, format it as a table in Excel. Give it some headers. Next important step, I will want to give this table a name. For my purposes today, any table that I make, I'm going to start it with Secret Santa and then what this thing is. So this is Secret Santa groups. Save this Excel file into my OneDrive. Let's do this one. And I'll save it just in the root, Secret Santa. Going back to PowerApps, let's insert that. Let's hook up that data source. I'm adding a data source to OneDrive. Let's add another connection. I know what I did. Let's go ahead and quickly drag in that file wherever it is, and just stick it inside my OneDrive for Business. I have a few different OneDrive accounts. Okay, just making sure this is the right account. It'll be a little bit easier for me to do it this way. I'll sign in. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and drag in the file that I want. Secret Santa file inside the PowerApps folder. It is uploading. And I'll hop back to PowerApps. Cancel this. I'll add that file from OneDrive for Business. Selecting Power Apps. Oh, this one. And Secret Santa. Secret Santa groups. Okay. So my table for the Secret Santa groups is now ready for me to write something to. Patch statement's going to let me write a record to it. So I'm going to fill in Secret Santa groups. I want to write to a new record. We'll use the defaults function here to pull up a new record. And then, let's see. Different fields that I have in the Excel sheet. What I could do is just copy paste the different columns and transpose them. That way I have them in a column so that when I'm writing my patch statement, I've got all my columns ready for me to fill things in. For the ID field, I'm going to use the GUID function. It's going to give me a unique identifier for each record in this table. And I'm going to convert it to text. I'm going to coerce it into text. The timestamp, I'm going to use the now function. Created by, I'm going to fill in me, the user who's currently logged in. Using the IntelliSense, select it. The title. Created a variable already. Go ahead and set the title to that group name. And membership, I'm going to keep it blank for now. We'll fill that out on the next screen. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'll go ahead and create a second table for whoever belongs to this group. I like to use I like to use the split function a lot, but for the sake of this video, I think it's going to complicate some things. So let's go ahead and create a second table where I'm going to relate a person's ID number to each person who belongs to a group. We'll call it person ID. I'm going to have this table show the name of the person. Call it first name, last name, email, and which group are they belonging to? The group ID number. That's going to be this ID number. It's going to be used for many different people who belong to that group. So if I have 20 people who belong to the group, they'll all have the same group ID number. And they'll have their email, their first name, last name, person ID. Let's turn that into a table. And give that table a name. Secret Santa. Numbers. Save my document. Let's drag it in again. So that's uploaded. Replace it. Okay. Hopping back over to PowerApps. Let's connect that table as well. Same way, I'm going to select that same file from my OneDrive for Business. Members. Okay, for this first group, I'm going to call it my family, the Dang family. Submitting it. it will write it back to the file that I have over here. Sorry. Where is it? The Secret Santa file. If I were to check this, I'll see that I've created I will have created a group for it. Let me just make sure that worked out. Save to a new record in the table, ID number, name, membership. Try closing it. And let me write this again. Okay, going back here. Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong table. All right, so I've got my groups. Okay. There's one more thing I should do now that I'm thinking about it. I want reverse the order of these things. Let me tell you why. First, I'm writing a record with the group that I want. And then I need to figure out who's in that group and assign them that ID number. So I need to know the ID number before I can assign anybody to that group. I'm going to change things up now. I'm going to do a pattern that a little bit more complicated, but it's not that much more complicated. The result of this patch is going to be a record. So it's going to create this new record. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to set a record that I'm calling current group to the result of that patch. Whatever comes out of that patch is going to be set to this variable. Indent it just so that you can see that the patch statement is nested inside this set variable statement. And then when I go to the next screen, I have that whatever had come out of this. Let's do some cleaning up before I move on. Upon hiding this screen, I want to reset that input field so that it's blank again. Just so I don't try to repeat the same thing again. Okay. And let's see, I'm going to revise my requirements now because I'm thinking if the next experience is somebody goes into this and starts adding emails, I think another experience that I would want is to see a summary of all my different groups. Okay, so let's go ahead and use a combo box to show all the different groups that I have. The combo box has an items property, which I'm going to set directly to Secret Santa groups. And if you haven't discovered this part of the combo box, you can change the layout of a combo box to show more information. It can have 2 lines of text, single line. This one doesn't have the image working quite yet, but go ahead and use double. For the main text, I want to show the name of this group. And for the second line, let's show a timestamp of when I created this group. Okay, so I've created 2 groups here. For this combo box, I'm going to allow myself to search against the name of the group. Right now it's saying find items. I'm going to change that to groups. Let's call it select a Secret Santa group. So maybe I select this one. Okay. For this next part, I'm going to be searching for different users in this tenant. In my tenant, I have a student, I have a parent, and I have teacher. The way this sample screen template works is every time I select one of those names in that browse gallery, let me pull it up. I also have a demo account. Okay. Every time I select a person from this gallery, it is collecting them to my people. So that's the collection that I'm going to be working with. Now that I have, let's go ahead and revise it right now. As I add names to my people, let's perform another action as well. What I want to do is I want to save those people to my group. I could either do it here, or I could do it at the end of when I send the email out. So now I'm thinking to myself, where do I want to finalize the people who are part of the Secret Santa group? Do I want to do it here or up here? I'm thinking I want to do it as I go along, so that I don't accidentally like close the app for some reason and have to start over. So that's why I'm deciding to do it here. Okay, let me put down some commenting code so you can see what this means. Collect the person's information to a collection. And after I collect the person's information, save them to the membership table right away. Okay, the way I do that is a patch statement. Well, I'll do the patch statement first, and then I'll put a condition around it. Patch to the membership table a new record hop over to Microsoft Excel again, get the column names, transpose it, copy it over, zoom in. Okay, paste that in. The person's ID number. Each person's going to have a distinct ID number. Let's make this person, I'll use the GUID function again, and I'll coerce it to text. Their first name. Oh, I know what I need to do. This patch statement can write the one record. For each person, let's see. this person's first name is already inside this gallery. Going to be their given name. Their last name is the respective item surname. The group, the email, this item dot email. I'm going to use user principal name. It has better results. And the group ID is the current group that I just determined on the previous page. And I want to return the ID from that. All right, just double checking my errors here. I need a semicolon after the collect function. Okay, so what action am I doing here? I'm collecting the person that I tap to my people, and then I'm writing them to that Excel spreadsheet. Now I'm going to put a condition on here before I write this, just to double check that I haven't already added them to this group. If this person, if their user principal name is in, if I were to filter down the Secret Santa members table and only show the group members, who belong to the current group .id, if I were to filter that, and this email address is currently in there, it's the group. If they're in the email column for that group, I don't want them to belong to this. I don't want to write them again. So I use that exclamation point, stick everything inside of parentheses, so that I do not perform this, so that I only perform this action if they are not already in there. Okay. Now I'm going to copy something very similar. If I were to push this X button and delete them, I also want to go into the backend, into the table, remove from the Secret Santa groups if get the record where the Secret Santa members for the one where the group is the current group, and not just that, but it matches the same email address, and the email is this item dot user principal name. I'm removing them from the local collection, and then I'm removing them from the actual database. Okay, and if you're wondering, I'm actually going to be shipping this sample out to you. Okay, so I have a way of assigning people to a particular Secret Santa group. In the subject line, let's go ahead and pre-slug this. For the default text, I might say something like, "You're invited to a Secret Santa." In the message field, let's give a message in the body. And what you could do is prepare this ahead of time in HTML. For my purposes, I'm just going to keep it plain text. Um, you're invited. Instead of repeating that, let's just say, please join us this Christmas for a secret Santa exchange. To get started, tell us about yourself by using the Secret Santa app. This is now a good time for me to save what I'm working on before it gets deleted. Let's go to app settings, call this Secret Santa. And I'm going to save this to the cloud. Oh, I like this icon. All right, I'll save this. That's April's app, by the way. Now, the reason why I'm saving the app right now, let me jump out. Saving the app right now because I want to get its address. So I go to the Secret Santa app that I just saved. I get this address. Go back to the app that I'm working on. And in the body of this email, I stick the link. Now, again, you can go ahead and beef this up with some HTML. In fact, I could replace this with an HTML text box, or I'm sorry, a rich text editor, and that would output HTML. Okay. I'll keep it simple for now. All right, when this is done, this send button is going to perform these actions. It's going to separate each of these people or it's going to combine them all and separate them by semicolons. Then it's going to send an email to these people. I'm thinking instead of sending it to them, I want instead of sending it to those people, I'm going to send it, I'm going to keep the to field blank. And I'm going to use BCC for everybody else. Let me see if I can find it. BCC. I'm going to BCC everybody instead of sending them to the to field. So I made the to field blank, subject line, body line, and everybody else to BCC. Okay. Let's test it out. I'll just click send. All right, I'm going to hop over to OneNote and just recheck my requirements. So I figured out how I can create multiple groups. I sent in an email. Now let's where I do interests and this Bing search thing. Okay. Going back to the app. After I send this, oh, it looks like there was an error. Oh, the to field cannot be blank. In that case, I could send this to myself, just so I have a receipt of it. Okay. I'll go ahead and select those people again. Let's send it very quickly. Okay. Next, I'm going to go create a new screen. Oh, let me just quickly put a navigate. Let me bring myself back to screen 1 when I'm done. Let's bring this to, let's create a new screen where we have different modes. Um, Let me just make sense of this. Now, earlier I said it's a best practice to name things as you go along. But for a live stream, just to save myself some time, I'm not going to do that right now. But I will rename these screens just to remind myself what I'm going to be doing on each screen. I added a new screen just as a landing page for the different modes. So this blank screen that I just added is going to be for the mode. This is second screen is for the communicating to each of the people in the Secret Santa. Call it members. And that first screen, we'll call it on this page. I'm going to create my modes. I used a horizontal gallery and just so I can show the different things that you can do inside this app. For my purposes, I'm going to build a manual menu of things that you can do inside this app. Using the table function to generate this table on the fly, the first thing that you could do inside the app is, we'll call it, we will call this first thing that you could do in the app, create a group. And it will go to screen group. In this table, I have 3 fields: the ID column, the label of the group, and the screen that I want to navigate to if I were to click it. Let me copy that and create entries for the next things the next actions that I want inside this app. I'm giving each one an ID number so I can easily reference this table elsewhere. The other action that I want to do is assign members to a group, Secret Santa. So for consistency, I'll say create a Secret Santa group. And then for the third one, build your profile. Put in some actions real fast before I build the profile page. I click this image box. I click the navigate button in the action ribbon. I want it to go, actually, let's go into the onSelect property. I want the navigation to go to the respective screen that I put into the table. So this item.screen is going to go to the respective screen. Let's go ahead and create that profile screen now. Okay. Let's do this as I'm trying to think if a certain screen template will help out here. I'll start with a blank one. And since I'm going to think about how I'm going to save this data, let's go back to Excel. Somebody's going to create their profile right now, and I need to save the information from their profile. I know I'm going to need who they are. In this case, their person ID number. I'm going to shorthand it to PID. I'm going to rename it here. Who they are, their interests, And also, in addition to their interests, I want to know uh, pictures for it. So an image URL. I want to know their interests and I want to tie it to an image. Okay. Those are the only fields I'm going to use here. I guess I could have them fill in age and what else did I say I was going to do? Yep, let's keep it like that for now. Let's do one more. One more field. This one's going to be the ID column for this record. You know, I'm thinking let's get rid of the age one. We'll just keep it as interests and image URL. I'll format that as a table with headers. And let's name this table. I think because I'm in the OneDrive online experience, I don't think I have access to naming tables. Okay. Well, let's just use the name that it has. Going back to the app, I'm going to add that. Select the same OneDrive for Business file. Secret Santa. Table 3. Okay. Now, let's create this as a form. The reason why I like the form is it's going to pre-populate kind of like a structure for people to fill in details about themselves. I create it as an edit form bound to the table. Again, apologies for not renaming this table. Trying to pick up some speed here. Fields that I want them to fill out. I'm going to show an image, the interest field, the image URL field, and I'm going to snap it to one column. The ID column and the PID columns, I'm actually going to show them now, but I'm going to hide them later. I'm going to pre-populate them. Let's go ahead and take care of it right now, actually. For the ID field, I'm going to set its update property to a GUID. Okay, so it's just going to always undo that. Let me put that into the default property. For that matter, this form, I always want it to be new in the new mode. So I'm always creating new records. Okay, and the PID column or the PID field, it's the ID number of this person. They'll select themselves. We'll have to create a selector somewhere. Okay. Now let's get things more interesting. Let's hide these for a second. In the properties pane, I'm going to turn the visibility property of these two fields off. I'm going to unlock interests and image URLs so we can tinker with them and make them more interesting. Okay, for the interests uh, of the person who is filling out their profile, I want them to start typing something. And over on the right-hand side, this is the experience that I'm thinking. As they're typing in their interests, I want Bing search to bring up a picture, a gallery of pictures. And from that gallery, when they select one of these pictures, it fills out the input field for the image URL. And then I actually want to hide this. Okay, make it invisible. And instead, show the actual picture that I selected here, whatever I picked here. And then save that back to the table. And then submit this form and so that they can create some new records. Okay, so popping back to Power Apps. Let's see. I actually have, I don't want to spend time on this live stream for doing it, but I have created I created a flow that does a Bing image search for me. So on the screen, I've added a button, just a temporary button just for demonstrating this. And it lets me search for images based on what I type. So I'm going to show my tree view. This control right here, whatever I type in here, I want it to be searched on Bing. It's called data card value 1. So in the first argument of this Bing search flow that I have, I'm going to fill in whatever text that is. Second argument, I believe, is safe search. I'll keep safe search on for the families. The third one, I believe, is about color. I want color only. The next ones, I believe I set it to all for the remaining arguments. This button is temporary. I'm just using it for now. But when I run that flow, I want it to collect its results, collect its results. Save those results from the Bing search to this collection that I'm calling image results. So whatever comes out of that is going to be a table of images, and I think it'll look good in a vertical gallery. I chose vertical because I could change the layout of this vertical gallery to show like 3 columns of images. Okay. Let's do one more step. Let's transfer this. Let's change this gallery to the image results. And then instead of showing the sample image of that mountain, I show either the thumbnail or the content URL. I think I'll do thumbnail. Let's search for something that's coming out on the Nintendo Switch soon. The Pokemon Let's Go Eevee version. If I click this button, it should show me some Bing images of that. Looks like I have an error here. It didn't go through. Okay, well, I'll have to troubleshoot that later. Maybe it's this part. Search the text. Color only. Okay, Well, let me troubleshoot that real fast. I'm gonna hop over to my other computer. I've got Bing search. Um, let's just do it on this computer. I have my flow history, and let's see why it failed. Parameter has an invalid value, the safe search one. What do I normally type in there? Um, let's see what happens if maybe it's lowercase. Turn it off. Um, it looks like oh, okay. Strict, off, moderate, or strict. There is no on. Okay, that makes sense. Let's change it to strict. What I just did there, I'm sorry. What I just did there is I went to the Bing Search API, which I had pulled up, and it gives me information on what I could fill in for each of the arguments. Let's click that again. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right. Now for the image URL box, whatever I pick over here, I want that thing to be filled into this field. So the default for this, instead of parent.default, actually I'm clicking the data card overall. Instead of this item.url, I'm going to set it so that it's always pointing to whatever's picked inside this gallery. Gallery2.selected, whatever selected there, the content URL. Okay, and then let's go ahead and hide that field with an image box. I want this image box to, instead of be fit, I want it to fill. And the sample image, I'm going to have it bound to parent.default. So it's always pointing to an image. So now I could go ahead and I'm going to take the formula that I have on this button for testing. And then in this text input field, on change, I wanted to execute that action. So I paste it there. I'm going to delete the button since I don't need it anymore. One more thing with this text input field, I'm going to delay its output, which means instead of performing that search action right away, I want it to be delayed a little bit so I can still type things. I will need to insert another button on the screen for submitting this information. I can either submit and close, or I want the option of submit and close. I'm sorry, submit and add another. Submit and close, submit and add more. And I could change the colors of these things so that I could change the colors so that it has a little bit more, a more call to action. So I think for submit and add more, I'll go ahead and make it positive green. Submit and close, I'll make it kind of more of a gray. Actually, I should also have like an X button somewhere, just as a pattern to go back. So upon selecting this, let's go to navigate to screen mode. Move this in a little bit. Okay. When I submit and close, the actions that I want are submit the form. The only form that I have is form 1. And then after that's submitted, navigate to that mode screen, copy, oops, let's zoom out here, copy that function. In that green button, I'll just make it submit the form and stay on here. So let's figure out just one more thing. There is a field that I had hidden. There's a field that I had hidden here. Let's go into the controls. It's not the ID, it's the person ID. Okay. I'm going to put the person's email address here. So for the default, I'll make it user.email. So if I were to click submit and add more, it'll save this information tied to my account. Oh, looks like, oh, I have this open, so that's why it's not saving. Okay, let's try it again. All right, perfect. So it's submitted. There's one more action that I need to do here. So after the submission here, I want to get this back into new form mode. So let's do another check here. That matter, when I get to this screen, bring that form into new form mode. And let's rename the screen interests. Another interest. One more thing, let's clean things up. Anytime I leave this screen, clear the image results. Okay, so this is the experience that I want coming to this screen. Let's hide this data card text input field as well. Okay, so maybe I want Xbox accessible remote. Maybe that's what I want. That is not the accessible remote I was thinking about. Thinking about the one with, thinking about the new one that they had come out with. Try this. Okay, well, let's say I wanted this instead. Test it out. It should clear this. Okay, so it cleared the interest. I need to do one more tweak. Don't just clear the form, or don't just clear the form, clear the images as well. Okay. Now, just looking at time, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I have the interests. Now I need to do the pairing up, and we'll just end it after the pairing up. Okay, I'm going to create a new action here. This one's going to be available for admins. I can build in that logic later. Pair up find a source. Create pairs. And this is only for the people who have the Secret Santa admin. Okay, so I insert a new screen. I call it pair up. Screen for pairing up. Going back to this gallery, I'm going to bind it to screen pair up. So if I click Create Pairs, it'll take me to this blank screen. Now, I'm going to show a gallery of all the people inside my inside the group that I've selected. Filter the groups where the ID equals the current group .id. I show everybody who's in my group. I show their email address. Oops, I want the membership. My mistake. Show all the members whose group ID is the current group ID. Show their first name and show their email. I'm going to have a picker at the top for the different groups that I have. And since I already created that, let me just copy it over. This picker, I am going to bring it into this screen. Change this from group ID to combo box selected. Whenever I pick here, I want to show all the members of that group. Okay, and then let's just make sure this is. Let me turn off selection of multiple. Okay, whoever is part of that group, I'm going to run an action. If there's an odd number of people inside my Secret Santa, I'm going to need to figure out a way to solve that. I'll start first with pair up as many as possible if the number of people participating is even. Okay, so if I wanted to pair up everybody who's even, I'm going to use a collection. Show this out real fast. Here is a table of everybody who's participating. I'm going to create a temporary collection where I have one person's name and the other person's name. Now this person, who I paired up with, I'm only going to select them if they have not been paired up with yet. And if they are not the same person. So you can't be a Secret Santa for yourself. Okay, jumping back, how would this look like? This would be a for all statement. For all of the people in this gallery, which is called Gallery 3 under Tree View, for everybody in that gallery that has been filtered, collect them to a table that I'm calling pairs. Collect them to the table of pairs, where the first person, giver, where the giver is the respective email address, and the recipient, this is where I'm going to be putting in whoever has not already been picked. Okay, let's get deeper in here. I'm going to filter and choose somebody from the same table. Filter somebody from the same set whose email is not the email of the person of the same person. And I'm going to fix this in a moment. You'll notice it's the same thing right now. Okay. Make sure it's not the same email. And also make sure that it's not already picked. Email is not already inside pairs.recipient. Okay. I'm going to rename some columns here. Name the email column to email underscore. And then I'm going to revise part of this formula. And what I did there is just to make sure that the email column that I'm referencing has a different name than the email column here that I'm filtering. Okay, one more change. Email. Perfect. Okay. Cannot come. The email is not already inside the recipient. First, take the first person after shuffling. After I shuffle that group, take the first person and tell me their email address. Okay, I got it. Let me space this out a little bit more. Okay, is this what you came for? Okay. That's the filter. This is the shuffle. This is the first. What's going on inside this expression? I'm looking at that same table of people from the Dang family whose email is not mine. It's not the same person, and whose email is not already picked as part of the recipients. Shuffle that. Take the first one. Put their email here. So I'm pairing up a giver and a recipient in this way. And the for all will repeat this action until it's all done. Okay. Now, just for the sake of time, I don't want to hold you too long on this Saturday morning. This button is it's going to be where I pause here, because that's essentially. Okay, maybe I'll take it just one more step before I let you go. I'm going to email each of those people who they're who's received who. Let me just make a quick Outlook. Send email. For each of the people in the pairs function, in the pairs collection, for each of the pairs, email to the giver, a subject line. It's going to say, here's your secret Santa, buddy. And in the body, I want to say something like, you have been paired up with, and then the name of the person. And I could perform a lookup. Look up the recipient. Look up members, where the email address is the recipient. Return their first name and last name. you have been paired up with this person, period. They are interested in, and then I could concatenate, zoom in here. I'm going to concatenate everything that is available inside there at table 3. Where the person ID number is recipient. So this is, let me just quickly illustrate this. I'm sending an email for this recipient. So the giver is learning about the recipient and the recipient's interests, which is an entire table of data. And then I could include the pictures as well. I'm concatenating that table so that it puts all the interests together. I'm filtering table 3 where the person ID number is the person ID is the recipient. And I want to combine the interests separated by a comma and a space. Let me just check if there's anything else that I need. Yep, for each of those pairs, send that email. All right, that is where I'm going to stop this and take some questions at this time if you're wondering where I want to take this next. Okay, so I was planning on going a little bit further than this, like creating a flow that would send out these emails once I save these sets of pairs to a table. But I'll go ahead and keep it here now, just for your time, to respect your time. Let me open it up to questions. And I'll go ahead and hop over to the chat. Let me see. Oh. Okay, so I'm opening it up to questions now. I'm just monitoring the live chat. As I'm giving you some thinking time for questions, let me just say, what are the big ideas here? Some of the things that I had gone over include sketching things out that I want to do inside the app so that I know my requirements. I'm sketching out the different actions that I want inside the app, the different controls that I want, like for interests, I wanted to include Bing search. When things didn't work, like in Bing, I went into the flow to see what was the problem. And it turned out to be the argument that I was using in the Bing search flow that I had created was not what was allowed as part of the API. So I was able to fix that. I created a formula that used for all, so it would repeat, it would loop a function to send out emails to the recipients or to the givers and who their recipient is for Secret Santa. Again, what I would probably do next is just finish up the, just put in some flows to send out this email communication. That way, it can go ahead and send those emails out on the designated day 30 days prior to a Secret Santa. So that I don't have to go into an app and click that button to send out the emails. It would just automatically do it when the time frame for Secret Santa is over. I can go ahead and show that at a later date, but yeah, that would be an extensibility feature. Okay, Well, if there are no further questions, I'll go ahead and end this live stream. I want to thank everybody for joining me today on this live stream for solving some of the things in Secret Santa with a simple app. The benefits of the app are that you can create experiences with Bing search. You can automatically send emails instead of typical forms, which don't send out emails. They don't know who to send out emails to. All right, have a good rest of your weekend.